Shalom everyone. Today's Torah reading is taken from Genesis chapter 40 verses 1 all the way to verse 23. The passage begins by reminding us where Joseph is in his story. He is now confined in the royal prison where Pharaoh's political prisoners were kept. Commentators note that this was not an ordinary prison. According to the Rabbinic interpretation, God the Father positioned Joseph there intentionally so that he could encounter Pharaoh's officers. What appeared to be a setback was actually divine positioning. Two officials of Pharaoh were brought into the prison, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker of the king of Egypt. They had offended their master, and Pharaoh, in his anger, placed them in custody under the commander of the guard in the same prison where Joseph was confined. According to Midrashic and Talmudic commentary, these were highly trusted positions in Pharaoh's court. The cupbearer protected Pharaoh from poisoning by tasting the wine before it was served, while the baker was responsible for preparing the royal bread. The Talmud suggests that the two officials were likely accused in connection with a plot to poison Pharaoh, which explains why he was so angry with them. The commander of the guard assigned Joseph to attend to them, and they remained in custody for some time. During this period, both men had dreams on the same night. Each dream carried its own meaning, yet neither man understood its interpretation. When Joseph saw them the next morning, he noticed that they were troubled and downcast. This moment is significant. Joseph himself was suffering unjustly, yet he still noticed the distress of others. According to Midrashic teaching, God the Father elevates those who show compassion for others, even in the midst of their own suffering. When Joseph asked why they looked so sad, they replied that they had dreamed dreams, but had no one to interpret them. Joseph responded, "Do not interpretations belong to God?" and invited them to tell them their dreams. Joseph did not claim any personal power. Instead, he attributed wisdom entirely to God. Rabbinic commentators note that unlike the Egyptian magicians and diviners who relied on mystical arts, Joseph rejected magic and pointed to divine revelation. This humility set him apart from the pagan culture of Egypt. The chief cupbearer then shared his dream. He saw a vine before him with 3 branches. As the vine budded and blossomed, its clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in his hand, and he pressed the grapes into the cup and placed it into Pharaoh's hand. Joseph interpreted the dream, saying that the 3 branches represented 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh would lift up the cupbearer's head and restore him to his former position, and he would once again place Pharaoh's cup into his hand, just as he had done before. The imagery of the vine appears throughout Scripture. In Psalms 80 verse 8, Israel is described as a vine that God the Father brought out of Egypt and planted in the land. The vine therefore becomes a powerful symbol of God's covenant people. Centuries later, Yeshua declares in John chapter 15 verse 1, "I am the true vine." In this statement, he reveals himself as the faithful fulfillment of that imagery, the source of life, through whom God's covenant purposes are fulfilled. All who remain in him share in that life and bear fruit. The cupbearer's dream also introduces another important biblical symbol, the cup. From the vine comes the wine that is placed into Pharaoh's cup and presented before the king. In the scriptures, the cup often represents covenant and communion. This imagery reaches its fullness in the words of Yeshua at the Last Supper when he says, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood." Luke chapter 22 verse 20. Just as the cupbearer restores the cup before the king, the Messiah offers the covenant cup through which humanity is restored to fellowship with God the Father. From the vine in Joseph's dream to the vine of Israel in Psalms, the scriptures gradually point us towards the Messiah who declares, "I am the true vine and the source of life for all who abide in him." Joseph then pleaded with the cupbearer, asking that when he was restored to his position, he would remember Joseph and mention him to Pharaoh so that he might be brought out of prison. Joseph explained that he had been taken from the land of the Hebrews and had done nothing deserving imprisonment. When Chief Baker saw that the interpretation was favorable, he also shared his dream. He saw 3 baskets of bread on his head. In the top basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, but birds were eating them from the basket on his head. Joseph interpreted this dream as well. 3 baskets represented 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh would lift up the baker's head from him and hang him on a tree, and the birds would eat his flesh. Rabbinic commentators observe an important difference between the 2 dreams. In the cupbearer's dream, he actively serves Pharaoh, while in the baker's dream, he does nothing to stop the birds from eating the bread. Some rabbis interpret this detail as suggesting negligence in his responsibility. 3 days later, on Pharaoh's birthday, the king held a great banquet for his servants. During the celebration, he lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and the chief baker among his servants. The cupbearer was restored to his position and once again placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But the chief baker was executed just as Joseph had interpreted. In the Torah narrative, the repeated pattern of 3 branches, 3 baskets, and 3 days carry symbolic significance. Throughout Scripture, the number 3 often marks a decisive turning point where God the Father brings revelation, deliverance, or restoration. This pattern later echoes in the resurrection hope revealed through the Messiah. Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph. Instead, he forgot him. Rabbis reflect deeply on this moment. Joseph had asked the cupbearer twice to remember him. Some Midrashim suggest that because Joseph placed a measure of trust in human help, God the Father allowed him to remain in prison 2 additional years so that he would learn complete reliance upon the Lord. This chapter also reveals messianic patterns. Both Joseph and Yeshua were innocent, yet both suffered unjustly. Joseph through imprisonment and Yeshua through condemnation. Joseph stood between 2 prisoners. One was restored to life while the other faced judgment. In a similar way, Yeshua was crucified between the 2 criminals, where one received mercy and life while the others rejected him. Ultimately, God the Father revealed the future through Joseph, not to exalt him prematurely, but to prepare the way for Israel's redemption. Joseph's gifts were being refined, and his time of leadership was drawing near. This reading reminds us that sometimes the prison is not the end of the story. It is the place where God prepares his servants for the palace. Joseph's prison became a place of preparation. His God-given ability to interpret dreams would eventually open the door to Pharaoh's court. Yet, Joseph would still wait 2 more years before that moment arrived. God's plan unfolds in his perfect timing. Delays are not denials. Next week, we will continue with Parasha Miketz, where Joseph's story takes a dramatic turn. Until then, stay blessed.